Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Transfer Talk where we'll be discussing the latest Palace transfer rumours of the day. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first rumour of the day is on Zaha. According to Sky Sports, PSG, Borussia Dortmund and Monaco want to sign the Palace forward. There's no surprise in the story. Wilf Zaha has been rumoured to leave the club for years, but I think the main shock is the timing, really, because we haven't really heard anything about Wilf Zaha leaving up until now, and the players are now back at pre-season. It seems like Zaha's agent is back at it as well. I like the clubs that he's been linked with, the likes of PSG, Monaco, and Borussia Dortmund, because of course that would mean that he moves abroad, and I think that would be the best for Zaha right now, because you've seen at England, there's so many issues relating to Zaha where the pressure's constantly bashing for diving, for stuff that he hasn't even done. So I think if he moves abroad, he'll be able to focus on his football more. But now let's move on to the main and real point, which is, yes, there's interest there, but are clubs going to pay up for Wilfried Zaha? There's always been this thing where Palace value him very highly and clubs are not willing to pay that much. So is it going to be another year where Palace value him around 70 to 80 million pounds and no one goes and pays for him and then Wilfried Zaha's upset once again? I'm not too sure. I think it's most likely to be the case because there's been no indication that Palace are willing to drop their valuation. And do you really blame the club? I don't really blame the club because I feel like Zaha is worth a lot to Palace. And there's no denying that because even though he hasn't scored that many goals and got that many assists, if we were to sell Zaha, then there's a high chance that the cost of relegation could be massive, more than the 70, 80 million pounds. So I understand where the club are coming from. But then again, Zaha wants to move. And what I'll say about this situation and how I view it, but of course I want to hear you guys' reaction in the comments down below, is that it's a business. It's a business for Palace. At the end of the day, yes, Zaha has done a lot for the club, but it's not like we're holding Zaha for ransom. It's not like we're not paying him any money. You have to stay at Crystal Palace because you've been at the club for all these years. Zaha is getting a lot of money. Let's not act like he isn't. He's getting a lot of money. He already signed to a long-term contract, which was on him. No one forced him to sign a long-term contract. And this is part of football. This is part of the business. If you sign a contract, then you have to fulfill your contract. And if you don't want to, then it's up to the club because you have agreed to stay at the club for so long. So when it comes to the likes of PSG and Monaco, I feel like they have got the funds for Zaha because they are very wealthy clubs. But are they going to pay that much? I just still don't see it happening. Roy Hodgson has come out after the Tottenham game and has practically said that Zaha wants to leave the club. So the fact that Roy Hodgson has put Zaha on the spotlight here, saying that he wants to leave, maybe even suggesting his performances are not up to standard because of what he wants to do and leave Palace, is that there's a scenario here where do we hold on for Zaha for another season or do we lower his valuation? I think realistically, even if we do lower it, anything below 50 million shouldn't be accepted. As we know, there's coronavirus. I understand that the market is a bit crazy right now in terms of player valuation. Some players' valuations are dropped and some have increased. But when it comes to Wilfried Zaha, there's no loss. There's really no loss if he keeps Zaha for another season unless he sulks and that impacts his performances, which you can argue last season, it wasn't his greatest season in terms of performances. But overall, I still feel like he had positive contributions throughout the season, and you can argue the tactics wasn't helping him. But it comes down to that. So PSG and Monaco, I feel like they've got the funds, but then again, will they pay up? I don't think so. And Borussia Dortmund, I think it really depends on Jadon Sancho. If Sancho was to leave the club, then Zaha would be a great replacement for them. So I wouldn't look too much into the stories. I feel like this is going to come up in the coming weeks. There's going to be other big clubs linked with him. I won't be surprised if Bayern Munich come into him and then the likes of Real Madrid and then Barcelona. It's all going to be playing out. It's all part of the Zaha game. But what happens is Palace's valuation. Do Palace decrease it and make it more realistic for the big clubs? Or do they keep it as it is? I'm not too sure, but let me know what you think. Because I know some of you won't be too upset. And I won't be too upset if we saw Zaha as well. Because I feel like we can replace him. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong, but he's coming towards 28, 29, and if we want to get the most out of him, then right now you have to sell Zaha to get the most valuation out of him. But then again, if he's to stay at the club in 1 or 2 years' time, that valuation will decrease organically because he won't be valued as much due to his age because, as I said, 28, 29 years old. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's going to be a long discussion with Zaha, and it has started now. So hope you've enjoyed the video, and until next time, up the Palace.